What I must say here, I think, Pawan, if you allow.
Yes.
I think the beautiful thing that is happening here is, I've always said that the translation should not just be heard as a translation. Be prepared to listen to another original, right?
Lovely. Very well said. And much so coming from Pawanji.
No, its translations are not easy. Once I sent a second volume, which is, I think, this book, Neglected Poems. If we have the time, we'll tell you how it was called Neglected Poems. But when I sent it to him, I got an SMS from Gulzar Sahab which said, but they are not faithful. I was really quite worried because, you know, it's very rarely that I have been spoken to so bluntly. And then I called him, I said, what's wrong? He said, but hadn't you told me that translation is like a mistress? If she is beautiful, she is not faithful. If she is faithful, she is not beautiful.
So I rightly said, didn't I? Listen to the translation.
These mountains, I like them. I like these mountains, peaks flying in the clouds, feet pounding away at the ice-cold waters of rivers flowing below. Peaks flying in the clouds, feet pounding away at the ice-cold waters of rivers flowing below. How wisely they live. How wisely they live with such stable, unchanging temperaments.
Lovely. That's Mustaqil Mizaj.
With such stable, unchanging temperaments. I like these mountains.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely.
Actually, Gulzar Sahab has traveled over a great many mountains. I live for the last 3 years as ambassador of India in Bhutan. I have been staying in Thimphu, which is exactly the same height as Landor, 7,500 feet. And it is truly a beautiful nest in the mountains. Sukrita, Gulzar Sahib have come in there. We organize the Mountain Echoes Literary Festival every year, where dozens upon dozens of Indian authors come. So you get used to the mountains. The mountains literally grow on you. And Gulzar Sahib always captures a snapshot. Poetry is a snapshot, an emotion suddenly stilled by the pen of the poet, stilled forever, immortalized forever on page. Now, here is a poem, if you'll allow Rohtang one.
Ji, please.
Called Below the Rohtang. The Rohtang Pass is something all of you have heard of, a very high pass. But just see how Gulzar Sahib has internalized his experience of the Rohtang Pass.
जी
Irshad.
मैं पढ़ूं?
Very.
ओरिजिनल तो वो लगती है मुझे जो अंग्रेजी में है, आप मुझसे सुन लीजिए। कितने ह्यूमन लगते हैं ये पहाड़, है ना? रोहतांग के नीचे कोहरे में लिपटी सिमटी एक वादी को सारा साल ही नज़ला रहता है। रोहतांग के नीचे कोहरे में लिपटी सिमटी एक वादी को सारा साल ही नज़ला रहता है। बर्फ पड़े तो जम जाता है, धूप पड़े तो फिर से बहने लगता है। सारा साल मगर उसका हल्का सा रेशा रहता है। पतझड़ में भी छींकों की एक झड़ी लगी सी रहती है। पतझड़ में भी छींकों की एक झड़ी लगी ही रहती है। छींटे उड़ते रहते हैं, सुड़क सुड़क करती रहती है। सारा साल ही इस वादी को नज़ला रहता है रोहतांग के नीचे।
Now, normally you will think of the Rohtang Pass not in terms of a cold that not you have caught, but the pass itself. But that's, of course, the imagination of the poet. and he has no idea the amount of torment he inflicts on a translator. He writes Suduk Suduk. Who will translate it for him? And there are many poems in which he'll say, Bud bud karta behta hai ye buddha darya. Now, you know, bud bud you can understand as a colloquialism used often in Hindi or Hindustani. If you write in English, bud bud, it doesn't make sense. But sometimes you have to use the same expression because the phonetics of that expression convey the same emotion to you, irrespective of the language.
As an English teacher, I can't but mention this. You know what this is called? A very beautiful word for this. Onomatopoeia.
Or no?
Onomatopoeia.
Whatever that is, since the teacher says.
The sound tells you the meaning.
Onomatopoeia. Okay. Below the Rohtang, a valley withdrawn, wrapped in mist, has a cold all the year long. When it snows, the cold congeals. When the sun is out, it begins to flow.
Wow.
But throughout the year, a slight congestion is there. In autumn too, a string of sneezes drop here, there, in the air. Suduk, suduk, it sniffles along. Suduk, suduk, it sniffles along all the year long. This valley has a cold.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well.